everybody. Good afternoon, America, and the rest of the world and the whole universe too. This is Yvonne DeVita coming to you from sunny downtown Binghamton. And as usual, you know that's a big fat lie because I live in Shenango Bridge and it's not sunny out. But what can I say? I keep hoping. Today on Smart Women Conversations, my special guest, Deanna. And Deanna, say your last name for me.
It's Estes. People on the East Coast say Estes, but it's correct as Estes.
Estes, and that's what I was going to say. So I would have been right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Is a designer. And she's someone that when I met her, we only met recently, I wanted to have on the show to talk about design and especially book design, because a lot of people don't understand the value of having an actual designer do your book cover. So if you're writing a book, and I hope you are, I want you to pay close attention and really take to heart the conversation we're going to have. And we'll talk further about it and explain why this conversation is important. But Deanna, first of all, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. It's great to be here. Thanks.
And you know, as we talk, I want you all out there to be thinking about color, about shapes and objects, and about, you know, where you actually think you should go to get a good designer, because we're going to talk about that. But first, let me tell you all about Deanna. And this is really cool. So she works let me start over. Work directly with Deanna to get your book branded like the pros. This is so true. Deanna and I exchanged some emails, and I looked at some of her work, and I want to tell you that's exactly why she's here, because she's a pro. With experience working on over 40 books, she can give you the insider secrets for authors of all genres. She will create the wow factor needed to set your book apart from the rest. And this is because book branding is her passion. She partners with publishers, editors, illustrators, printers, and marketing experts. Currently, she's working with 3 Colorado publishers. She's from Colorado, and so, you know, she knows I miss my Colorado. She's a book branding expert they know they can trust. Her goal is to design a book that expresses your unique vision. So she has experience working on 40 plus books in all genres. She has an intimate knowledge of the process of bringing a book from its initial stages to print. And you know, that's another thing we're going to talk about, Deanna, because people don't understand that the inside of the book is a design also. She's passionate about creating a book that you will love and be proud of. She's an award-winning subject matter expert. She has a BA in public speaking. No kidding, you didn't tell me that part. And has more than 27 hours of graphic design experience, including 15 years designing over 19 magazines annually. So then she has a whole lot of experience in all the kinds of programs that you need. Deanna, welcome to the show. And tell me about the public speaking before we go much further.
Oh, well, I started in college as a med tech and flunked chemistry. I didn't flunk it, but I couldn't do it very well. And so, you know, you went into one of those about what should I do for my living? And they came up with a teacher, an English teacher, which sounds horrible to me, but I did an internship at a company in their marketing department, and I discovered graphic design. And literally from that moment, I have not looked back. I completely changed my curriculum and all my goals. And so I've been a designer for 40 years, so I have a lot of experience. I'm a little embarrassed because obviously I need to update my website where you got my bio, because I have done over 75 books now.
There you go. See?
The holidays, yeah, I didn't realize I had a rush, but come October, this past October, I got like 10 books that I worked on before Christmas. And so now I know I have a rush season.
That's very interesting. Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you can see from Deanna's beautiful background and my plain old white that I have no idea what to do with at this point, that she's way better at this thing than I am. And I am a writer, I'm not a designer. That's why I wanted to talk with you, Deanna, because the design of a book, we'll do extensively on the cover because there's so much to do. There's the cover, there's the spine, and there's the back cover. But the inside is a design also. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. You know, the inside of a book is really important because they're little clues that help authors go through your book and not get lost along the way. You know, through the years, the big boys, and they probably were boys, pretty much set the rules. And sometimes it's like, I don't know why we do it the way we do, but we're used to seeing books a certain way. Yeah. And so if you don't do those little clues, you will look like an amateur. And I can tell you, if you want to go into any of those elements, you can do that.
Sure, show us.
So you have to have, let me find a good version here. So this is a self-help book, and it's kind of fun. So as you see, it has what are called running heads at the top of the page. And it depends on what you want. You usually have the name of the book on one side, and you can either have the chapter head or the author name. So the chapter head comes in with nonfiction books, and fiction books would have the author's name. So you need the page numbers in the correct place. They don't have to be at the top. They can be at the bottom. They can be centered or anything, but pages, odd pages must, this is really important, be on the left-hand page. So all your odd pages are on the left. If that's not happening, it's wrong. You have to make sure that your line spacing, the space between the lines, is easy to read. This one's a little more than maybe usual because it's, again, a self-help book. It's dense. So she wanted to make sure that they could see. Also, you can see that it's not indented, which you would never do with fiction. You would never do this kind of style. Yeah, so fiction, let me just get a page, would be, you know, another example of that on fiction would be this. So he has his page numbers at the bottom, but the running head is at the top. Turn a page here. And you can see the line spacing and the indents are a little better.
Well, that is really, really fantastic. And when we were doing publishing, myself and my husband, he would do the page layout because he had gone to school for that. And it was interesting trying to explain the concept of the inside of your book as a design also to people. And also, I don't think I want to get into it today because we have a lot of things to talk about, but the choice of your font is a design choice. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, that font is so important to the reader's eye. And also books and words and pictures together.
Words and pictures together.
My husband was adamant about making sure that if you were talking about the picture, it should be on the same page.
Oh, right.
As opposed to.
It's not always possible, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And so to your point, it makes it professional when those things happen. And if, ladies and gentlemen, you're writing a book, you can publish yourself. You can be your own publisher or do publishing with a print-on-demand company, but you need to have someone do your page layout, someone like Deanna. Do not just send a Word doc and think you can turn it into a PDF and it becomes a book. We're talking print books. We're talking good, solid books that people, even if they read it on their Kindle, right, Deanna?
Yes, it still, you know, needs to be done correctly.
So your journey from chemistry is really funny because I was a veterinary technologist, and I mean, I studied all that kind of stuff. I was very good at blood work. That was my, if I could have done blood work at a big veterinary hospital, I would have been happy. But I was at a hospital where I had to do a whole boatload of things, and you know, I didn't like the other thing. Oh, I liked surgery. I liked assisting in surgery. But anyway, that's a background I have, that then I became a writer.
Yeah.
Because writing was something I did as a child also. The concept of writing a book today. When should I do a cover? Should I wait till I'm done with the book?
You know, you can actually do the cover at any point. In my mind, however, you would want to be well into your book so that you perhaps have a scene that you would want to use. But please don't wait until you're finished with the book and you're ready to print it, because we can create the cover ahead of time so that you can use it for pre-orders and marketing. So, you know, probably when you're starting the editing phase, which can take a while, is a good time to start with the cover and the interior layout design, because then it'll all be ready at the same time.
So show us some of your covers. You have some really fantastic covers. And I want people to pay attention. You can point out a little bit about why the particular cover is the way it is. And let's talk about the elements of a book cover, because it's more than just that front page that we're looking at. Talk to us about these books.
Okay, so again, I for some reason, my bulk of my clients are like telling their own story. So I have a lot of nonfiction. I've done plenty of fiction as well. But so this is fiction, and this is, I'll hold a different one up, a nonfiction book. And what is really important is that your title is very large. And sometimes I don't do as good of a job, but remember, this is going to come down to a little teeny thumbnail, little teeny picture when you order from Amazon, etc. So if you, this is great. You know, this one has some nice big type too. So as far as the type and font goes, it's going to give you the feel of what kind of book.
Hold it up higher.
Okay, sorry. I don't see what kind of book it is. So, you know, this book is a fantasy fiction book, and you can see that the font and the art and everything tell you what kind of book it is. And so that is very important as well, because if they think they're getting a mystery novel and they end up with something else, they're not going to be very happy. As far as where the author name goes, it can go anywhere on your book. Traditionally, the bottom. Nowadays, however, a lot of authors, especially famous authors, are putting their name at the top. So if you want to follow and look like the big boys, put your name huge at the top, and, you know, don't like hide your name. Some, you know, first time authors are like, you know, oh, I'm embarrassed, or no, I don't need it that big. Yeah, you do need it that big. And let's see, so that's a front cover using art and font to describe what kind of book this is, what genre it is. And so then you have a spine. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of you can do with a tiny book on a spine, because there isn't very much space. Right. But you can still see them. So you just want to get it as large as possible. And this is the correct way to do it, you know, facing that way, not turned around. So my particular preference, and I do it all that I can, is to have the image continue from front to back. So don't, you know, not having, oops, I'm showing myself. So not having a box where, you know, the headline is, but they all go across the center so that they're one element.
That's awesome. I've never really thought about that. I'm pretty sure we did that. Tom did all our cover design, but I can tell you, I mean, it gives the reader or the person who might be buying the book a real sense of not just the story, because the cover does by the font, by the title, by the image, by whatever design is there, it does depict or make me feel a certain way about a certain book, whether it's mystery or fiction or fantasy, I do get that feeling. But the way you just showed it and continuing on to the back,
Right.
that kind of makes me feel like I'm already reading the book. I don't know. I'm trying to describe it.
To me, it is a huge, huge signal of a professional or not a professional. Because if you just have a little box here and this whole separate thing, you know.
Yes, that tells me they took the time to put the professional effort into this book.
I was going to show you a before and after, but I don't think I have it. Yeah. Anyway, that doesn't matter.
Well, but the
I'll
other
talk
thing,
about the back cover just a little bit if you want.
yes, please.
So there are very distinct differences between a fiction and a nonfiction book with a back cover. So you want about 250 words. I usually put a title on the back. This again is like something I do that's my own. I don't know if it's what other people do. So instead of repeating the name of the book on the back cover, I like to use, this is like prime marketing space.
It is.
This is like, they're going to look at your cover for a couple seconds, and if you can get them to look at your back for a good 10 seconds and have them read it, you are doing really good. So for me, they already know what the title is. I like to do a tease like you would do, let's say, for an ad or not. So nonfiction can be very much more relaxed than fiction is. So it doesn't have to be justified. It can be double spaced. You know, or have, you know, the lines, but fiction is a little pickier. I'm trying to find one, in that it's just simpler. So on nonfiction books, I'm trying to find one. You can have you can have bullets and things like that lead you on. Well, you would never have bullets on a fiction, in a fiction.
Right. Because it's part of the story. Our brain doesn't say bullets are a fiction book. If we
correct. I mean, it totally sets your brain. We have bullets into more business-like. So
I think
those are a couple little things. You don't want a lot of stuff because, again, if it's so small they can't read it. You know, some authors put their picture and their bio on it. I do that. I encourage my authors to do that when it's their life story in particular, and then their bio, I make sure says, why did you write this book? Not just, oh, I went to college and I did that. You know, we don't care about anything. What we care about is, why did you write this beautiful book?
Man. Absolutely. And I think that people underestimate the use of color also, because we talked about this in one of my other conversations, because we're surrounded in our daily lives with color. I mean, you have the blue and the gold, and today, thanks to my lovely granddaughter, Francesca, I have the turquoise, and it says something. I mean, color of your website, color of your brand, et cetera, et cetera. Well, your book becomes part of your brand. So you need to be aware that you cannot have this brand and then your book is totally off. Because it's even if it's a fiction book, it's a brand unto itself. Maybe you're a business professional in your spare time, you write fiction, fine, but that becomes a brand also.
I actually call it book branding. I do know that there's people that do things that they call author branding, which almost is maybe better than my little term of book branding. But yes, you know, you get this, you get postcards that look the same, you know, use these icons in her social media, you know, just keep it the same. It may seem boring, but that's what you need to do.
Well, that's you know, it does. I guess some people might think so, but no. So now I'm hearing something that you said in your postcards and your marketing materials. Do you create marketing materials also?
Yes, yes. Not a lot of cover designers do, which I don't understand. I'm a graphic designer, and I have bookmarks. I have a full set of pricing for
Ah.
either book stubs or business cards, bookmarks, postcards, etc. Get it
So do
all
you
ready.
recommend even nonfiction authors do that?
Oh, yes, yes, very much so. Yeah, if somebody, they may not want to buy your book when you're sitting there at a table or whatever, and they can take it home and find you. So
right. Well, and then there are so many ways. I talk about that sometimes to market your book, and I wonder. I don't think so much about fiction. I read a good bit of fiction myself, and the interesting thing about fiction for me is, and I don't do this purposely, but it seems like I'm at the library and I pick up a book and it says New York Times bestseller. And I say to myself, everyone on this shelf is a New York Times bestseller. So where are the people that aren't the New York Times bestsellers? Because there's a lot of people that make a living writing that don't put that. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, and what does that exactly mean? And this is not my expertise, but you make yourself a bestseller by getting up there and pumping it. So it isn't, it's not necessarily that you're this big hit. It's more that on that single day, you were able to sell a significant amount. And it's a nice thing to put on there. I have authors that have won awards, and we put their award on the book cover, sometimes on the front or on the back, even though maybe we might know that it's not as impressive. I'm sorry, that doesn't sound very nice, but,
well, it is impressive, but it's not
like the give all,
Well, because the general public might not know what that award is. And they do know when they see New York Times bestseller. So I learned, and this was years ago, they may have changed since I learned back 20 years ago, that you were given the New York Times bestseller award by how many books were sent to the bookstore, how many books the bookstore bought, not how many they sold, how many they bought.
And that's still true now.
So there are the books.
Individuals though, yeah.
And so I'm suspicious when I see that. Now, we also see Amazon bestseller. And so there are ways that people are able to get the book out in front of everyone by tapping into their network and having their network help them promote it. And so then it rises up in Amazon, and that's fine. I think that's wonderful. I really am impressed by the Caldecott Awards and, the fiction, small book fiction awards and other awards like that we used to look at for our authors, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Yeah, there's a couple biggies that in the industry are more prestigious. This book won a Kirkus Award. Like in all categories, it won first, and as it should be. So I just want to show you this because this is me bragging. Yeah. This is a book that I designed, and it's because I've been a graphic designer for 40 years that I know how to do things like this.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a Kirkus Award is good, very good actually.
Well, and so I do. In my business as a book coach, I'm not necessarily going to go out and say, here, submit yourself for this award. But I definitely, if I see or know of an award for my authors to submit themselves to, and in a recent one, a woman I met, she won, like you, where is it? It should be.
I know. I'll show this one while you look, and you can, if you want to keep looking. So for instance, this one is written by the Wyoming Poet laureate. And so you have to be very creative. It's a poetry book.
Okay.
With photographs. Some are his photographs and some are Shutterstock book.
Nice.
So if you're creative, you can get it out there in unusual channels. So he got an intro by the governor and got to put it out in front of the Wyoming state legislator. So, you know, his book is in all the, now my mind just went blank. Chambers, sorry, there we go. Chambers and like visitor centers and things like that. So it's not a traditional market, and he does very well in the non-traditional market because he's very creative with what he does.
Yeah. Well, this book, and she's one of my conversations from a couple weeks ago, Laughs on Rye. She was an International Book Award finalist. And so
you guys did? Yeah.
I don't know that she had an actual cover designer, but she did okay. I think you could have really pumped it up for her, but still, she kind of did what you said. Her title's pretty big and her name is right there, and something fell out. But in the end, awards are worthwhile, and I think it helps the author feel feel good about it, and it also helps the general public say, hey, this must be a decent book because it got an award.
Well, and let me just address that feeling good about your book. If you have some trepidation about the quality of it or something about it, as hard as you try, that is going to be there when you sell your book and present your book. So that's why it is so very important for me to make sure that my authors really love what they do, what they have, because, you know, you get that excitement. Oh my God, look at this, you know, and if you're like, oh yeah, it's okay, you can feel that energy difference. And that's the important part. And that's why the cover is really important. You want me to share the nephew art thing?
Yes, so this is something we kind of chatted up about, and this is something to really please pay attention to this part.
Well, a lot of authors, one of my most horrible things is when an author comes to me and they say, oh, my sister is an artist. She's a fine artist. Let's have her do the cover. Or, oh, my brother does signs and he does, you know, so let's have him a cover. So I personally call that nephew art. And this is an example of nephew art. This is by B. Clibben out of one of his books. So he's pretty funny. So I'm going to read this. Nephew art is like this. Harry is in the plumbing business and owns a truck. One day, over a beer, he said to his friend Fred, Fred, I figure it might be really nice to have a sign painted on the side of my truck. Maybe a happy plumber or some tools or something like that. But I went to a sign painter and he's way too expensive. So Fred said, don't worry about it. I have a nephew who's an artist and he'll do it for $20. I'll call him up right away. And this is what he would end up with, something like this. You've seen him. You know, you almost laugh when you see it. But the problem happens is that, okay, now that nephew has invested their time in it, and here I come along and say, no, please, we're not going to do this. So be very cautious. Certainly we all do have friends and relatives that are truly good artists. However, a book is different, all right? You know, there are certain things that you need with a book. And maybe let's pick up a different book here for fun. So I need space for the title. I need space for the author. I need the back to be readable and things like that. And you say, oh, well, that's easy. But believe me, I get many books that somebody has tried to do and I have to fix. So use a professional. It literally is the most important part of your book because it is why somebody's going to pick it up and why they're going to buy it.
And we, when we were doing book publishing and design and whatnot, if someone said, I have an artist who's going to do my cover, and we added $500 to the cost because we knew
Oh,
we were going to have to fix that cover. They
yeah,
never got the cover dimensions right. They didn't
right,
know how to make a spine. And so
right.
we would have to do that. And it's like, if you just let us do it, we wouldn't have to, you know, fix what you went. And it isn't that some of the artwork isn't very nice, but it's not
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah, I am not an illustrator. I mean, you can see these are all done by different illustrators. This is not me doing this, but I either hire or work with that illustrator to make sure they understand what's needed. My specialty in designing covers is taking many photos and creating a single photo or a single cover out of them. So for instance, these two boys are totally two different pictures. The grass is a totally different picture. I think that's all in that one. So I take them and I put them all together to do the story, because I'm never going to find a photo with two kids running into a dark.
Right.
And so like this one, I created the twister, the dust devil there. And I had to, this picture was actually ended pretty much there. So I had to recreate the whole background, which if you look carefully, you can tell, but I create more real estate, if you will, from pictures, existing pictures.
Well, this is so fascinating, and I hope it is going to be helpful to the folks who watch. If they haven't learned, I mean, I learned a few things today, and I thought that I knew, not everything, but I thought that I knew quite a bit about book design. I really love the way you demonstrated how the cover flows across the spine and into the back, because I'll tell you, that spine is extremely important to the book cover design, and people do not understand.
That's all you're gonna see on a shelf. You know?
Yep. That color, the font, the words, it has to be done right. Deanna, I can't thank you enough. Listen, I think we're just kind of brushing the surface, and we could talk further about this. And I think I would like to do that down the road, because there's so much more to teach people about good design, book cover, book insides, and then the kinds of graphic design work that you do to help authors then get out there with their book, because it doesn't stop. You can't write the book and say, okay, here it is, everybody buy it. Life doesn't work that way.
Well, I just wanted to give a little offer to any of your listeners. Please, I give a free half-hour consultation. And honestly, I don't even care if you don't use me or not. I want you to, but I will have that conversation with you, because I just want your book to look great. And I just want to share you don't need to go refigure out everything there is. And if you contact me, I will be happy to send you this sheet, which is just basically common things that I think all book designers need to know. And they're lists, they're not explaining everything about it. But if you came across something on this list that you don't know or understand, it's probably good to be asking questions. So if you call me, I'll give you that and a good half hour of advice.
Well, we will make sure that gets up on the YouTube channel and the blog, so and I will mention it to people also. And Deanna, this has been absolutely fabulous. I just feel, again, like there's so much that we could learn from someone who's willing to share the way you are. And maybe next time we could talk about that sheet you held up and talk about some of the terms, because I bet there's a bunch on there that even I don't know, and I need to learn. And I want to learn, because I'm writing a book. I may need you to do my cover.
Yeah, well, I hope I get to. Yes, and it's just kind of a tease to say, how much do you know and what do you need to know more
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, this is Yvonne DeVita from Smart Women Conversations. We've been talking with Deanna Estes, and it's all about books and book cover design and how to make you look professional with your product, because your book is a product. Deanna, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate you having me on.